Hey girls, what's up? Everybody's having a lazy day today. The animals are having a lazy day. The people are not having a lazy day. The weather is actually decent right now. It's pretty nice. It rained all night and it's going to rain a lot this week. So we are getting while the getting is good, as they say. This is the runoff. Our whole property right now is just very saturated, sloshy. You hear it. But it's not falling. Maya and Wes are out here working in the greenhouse trying to get the shelving done while you can still kind of go in and out, because once the shelving's done, you're just working inside of it. It's great. Doesn't matter if it's raining. Naturally, I asked Jeremiah to save all of this unprinted cardboard for me. That's garden gold right there. It looks so good.
Glad you like it.
Do you?
Yeah, but I mean, whether I like it or not, it's not relevant.
That looks really good. Oh, there's the trash bag you requested.
Thank you.
I typically try to stay out of the way of projects that Maya's working on if I can't be a help. Or else I just come and ask lots of pesky questions. I'm just excited. What do you think, Maya?
What do I think about what?
What are you thinking about?
Numbers.
Sometimes I was like, what are your thoughts? And he's like, well, anything I was thinking about X'd in my mind as soon as you asked her that question.
I don't think I'm alone in that. I think it's sometimes just how guys work.
It's too broad of
You
a
may
question.
have, yeah, it's too, you gotta narrow it down. You have to say, what were you thinking about
Regarding
plants? I could say, I was thinking about plants. It's almost like a matching game, you know, you got the cards and you're like, plants? I'm like, no. Or like, football? Yes. See?
Were you just thinking about football?
No, I'm just using it as an easy example.
Oh. You feeling good about our black wire shelf choice?
Yeah, it's gonna look good. It's all gonna look pretty good.
Somebody commented today on a video about how they could see the influences, the Gothic cathedral type influences on my greenhouse design.
Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what I had in mind with the stained glass and the black, was to have sort of this church-like feeling. And then a chandelier and all of that stuff.
You need to start looking for a flat surface that's not gonna have
Water
wire.
in it.
Yeah, like
Like a little table.
something.
Yeah. Honestly, if we do that table here, I might not put something like that over there. I might just leave the space for like green stalks, and then the bathtub, I'm thinking about putting the feet on it and doing some sort of like fountain in it. So the guys are continuing to work on the shelves, and I actually just remembered that I had a couple of things to plant. Trying to decide exactly where I want to put them. If you've been with me for very long, you may remember previously in my garden in Arkansas, I had a bed in the back corner of my garden that was full of lemon balm and mint. And I loved it, one, because I love lemon balm for its medicinal properties. I have a blog post about that I will put in the description down below that you can go check out, how to make kind of like a lemon balm syrup, which tastes delicious and is good for flavoring drinks, but also has like different calming medicinal properties. But I also just liked the lemon balm and mint because I would go out in my garden with my water bottle and go grab some leaves and put them in my water bottle and shake it up and just kind of flavor my water. The thing is that lemon balm and mint, both, they're actually in the same family. They're both kind of garden bullies. So if you're going to put them somewhere, they really need to have a dedicated space. You don't really want to go plant mint or lemon balm in the middle of your main garden beds because they'll just get really big. You'll have to fight them. So keeping in mind that I wanted to have them accessible for when I bring my water bottle down to the garden, I thought that this little square bed here in the front of the garden near the greenhouse would be a good place to put the lemon balm and mint. I am going to put them in the same bed. I've got 2 lemon balm plants. This is actually a basil mint, and it does have a really nice basil scent. And I thought that this would be really, really nice as a tea. Of course, I love basil tea. I also have a blog post about that with a recipe for it in case you want to be able to access it. I've done videos on these things too, but if you want the information quickly. And I thought the basil mint would make a nice tea, and probably would be good in other things too. But tea is why I bought it. Now these are going to get really big and fill out this bed, and I'm going to place them like this, and I'm going to put this basil mint in one corner, and I might get another kind of mint and put it in the other corner here. They'll end up kind of like growing all together, and that's okay. So this plant is looking pretty root bound. For something as resilient as mint, it doesn't matter just a whole lot, but we can kind of break these open a little bit here just to give them a chance to take off once they get in the ground. Plants in the mint family are also pretty frost hardy. It's coldish at night here, just below freezing. I wouldn't plant plants like this if you're still experiencing really hard freezes, just because they need some time to acclimate. They need some time to get their roots set. Now, after you have mature plants that are like in the ground and been there for a while, mint and lemon balm will survive a pretty solid freeze and keep going, especially if you throw something over them to give them a little bit of cover. And then a lot of times they'll start growing in the winter if you're having nice warmer days. A lot of times garden centers will start getting stuff in though before, this one's real rebound, before it's really time to put it in the ground. Got this at a local garden center, and of course I knew that mint would be fine right now. Just make sure if you buy a plant, don't assume that it's time to plant it just because it's on the shelf. Because you got to think, you're buying it on the shelf in a place that maybe they're keeping it in a heated greenhouse. Just because they're selling it doesn't mean it's ready for it to go in your garden. I was actually about to show you guys something, and I realized something, that I had made a mistake. This is not basil mint. This is mint basil. Meaning, I don't know, I need to Google. I don't need to plant this right now. Look at that. It's pretty wild. If this is indeed a basil, which, I don't know. I think it's a mint. Okay. I'm stumped. I gotta Google it. Don't mind me. I don't know what I'm talking about. I was right the first time. It's a mint. It is basil mint. For a second, I saw the tag and I was like, wait a second. If this is basil, I can't put it outside. It is actually part of the mentha family. I just looked it up. So if you've got something like this, which this one is very, very root bound, what I'm going to do here, not super necessary because I have lots of space. I could just stick this in the ground. It would probably spread. But to get it to grow a little faster, I'm actually going to take my hoary knife here and cut this thing in half. Oh, that's funny. Look at that. You can see where the nursery started this in a plug and then potted it up. Anyway, you could actually cut this into like fourths and plant this in different places. I'm just going to do half and put it right here in the same place because I don't need to put it somewhere different. But just keep in mind that a lot of times when you see things like larger herb plants, this was $5.99. Say you want to share it with a friend, you could take this, cut it in fourths, and have starts for 4 different plants. And once you put them in the ground, it's going to root and take off like really well. So there are things you can do like that, especially if you are in community with other people, to really cut down on the cost of gardening. You know, you can share seed packets and split up plants. You know, a lot of times you'll go and you'll see 4-packs or 6-packs for plants that are started, and you'll notice there's lots of little extras in there. Sometimes there's 3 or 4 in each one of those cells. Man, take those and separate them and get more for your money. You can take basil plants and rosemary and propagate from them. There are just so many little things you can do like that. to save a buck. As it is, cutting that and spreading it out is going to help those roots kind of take off a little faster and help that plant get established a little quicker. There we have it. This will be full and lush in no time. I'm going to grab some of this kale and head in for dinner. I haven't harvested just a whole lot off these plants because I've got several over there that I've harvested a good deal from. These were the ones that got just a tad bit knocked back by the cold. They're obviously made a comeback. Zucchini girl. You need a little attention, garden kitty? You're so pretty. I'm just taking note of the pretty food. Notice when I see like little things like the contrast on the edge of those leaves. All this art we are surrounded by. Oh man, I dropped a kale leaf. So I've got a couple of chickens thawed in the sink right now, and I am going in to, I'm gonna roast them. And a lot of times we have a big family, so we can eat dinner with one roasted chicken. That can be dinner and everybody can eat. I really got to do some filling sides with that, just whenever you consider 2 adults and 5 boys, 2 of which are very hungry teenagers and the little ones are close behind. It's better when I do 2 chickens. Then I do something lighter like a kale salad on the side and some rice. That's what I'm going to do tonight. And then there's leftover meat, which I will save for lunch tomorrow. And then I'll do the 2 chickens. I'll go ahead and put water over them and let it simmer overnight to make broth. So that's what I'm going to be doing tonight. All right, I'm back in the house. I got my 2 chickens in my roaster oven, turning it up to like 375. They're covered in oil and herbs and salt and pepper. I actually should have done this first, but I'm going to cut some lemons in half and put them in the cavity of the birds. Which is going to just add some flavor and moisture as it cooks. Cover this up. Since I'm usually roasting 2 chickens at a time, I usually do go ahead and use the roaster oven. If for whatever reason I'm ever just cooking one, like say my teenagers aren't going to be here for dinner, or if I'm making a chicken for lunch. But seeing as how I'm doing 2, I'm going to have enough bones to warrant doing broth. And so, you know, the roaster oven will have all the drippings in it, and I'll just go ahead and we'll put the bones back in and cover them with water and simmer them overnight in the pot, that same pan. And so, you know, making less dirty dishes, which is always kind of a benefit. All right, guys, it's the next morning. Dinner was great last night. I didn't really show the full process because it was dark and loud, but I am gonna follow up and show you guys my broth the next morning. Roasting 2 chickens. We ate 1 plus a little bit of the second one last night. Cut the rest of the meat off the bone of what was left. My teenagers took that with the leftover rice today for lunch at school. And I still have, you know, a good bit of meat left. And here I have the broth. Now, I did just go ahead and let the lemons stay in this. This simmered overnight. I turned it off a couple hours ago to let it start cooling off so I could handle it. So I've got a pot here. I'm going to strain this into. I think all my gallon jars got carried out to the milk room. So normally I would put this in a gallon jar, but I don't know where they are. So this pot will work. I have let this cool off some so that this can go into the fridge. And sometimes with broth like this, I would can it, but I'm actually just going to work this into my meal plan this week and just use it over the next few days because it's not a massive batch of broth. This will probably be a little over a gallon, you know, once I get all of the bones and everything strained off of this. And it's also not bone broth. So bone broth is when you have more bones than this and when you let it simmer for a long time. So like if I were to fill this halfway up with beef bones and then cover it with like a lot of water and simmer it for 48 hours. That would be a much more nourishing and rich broth. But this does have a lot of flavor in it because it has all the pan drippings. It does have these carcasses, the lemons, all of the herbs. And what I will do with this is I will probably do soup. Maybe tonight or tomorrow I could do some sort of soup. So a good soup that I would make this time of year would be like zuppa toscana. It's like an Olive Garden knockoff soup if you just Google it. But it's pork, kale, since I have a lot of kale in the garden, potatoes. We have potatoes in storage. Cream, of course we have that from the cows. So that would be something that I could make using this broth and using a lot of what's on the farm seasonally. And then also, when I have broth like this in the fridge, anytime that I make rice, I will use broth instead of water in the rice recipe, which is just going to add kind of a layer of nourishment to that. All right, so here's my full pot of broth. Lots of flavor and goodness in that. I'm gonna stick a lid on it and let it cool off just a little bit more before I stick it in the fridge. All of those cooked down carcasses, that's gonna go to the pigs and they will eat those. And in doing that, those chickens we raised on our farm kind of make the full cycle. We raise them here, we process them here, we then use them for our food, make sure that we don't waste anything of them as far as we're concerned, and then from there take what's left and cycle it back into the farm. Of course, that going to the pigs, or sometimes different carcasses and leftovers will go to the chickens, and then the energy of that kind of goes back into growing more food and back into the earth, nourishing the soil. So kind of a full process thing. Broth is super easy to make, and it really does make the most of it, even if you're just buying rotisserie chickens at the grocery store. Even if you're just buying one at a time, stick those carcasses in a Ziploc bag in the freezer until you have a few of them, fill a pot, and simmer out some broth with it, and you are getting more for your money, more nourishment. You can use it in making rice or making soups. It's great just for sipping whenever somebody's feeling under the weather. Well, that's gonna wrap it up for today. Thank you guys for hanging out with me. I bless you. Until next time.